Welcome in. Where are we? We're right here, folks. Welcome in.
There we are.
Welcome in. It's time for the Overreaction postgame show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. He is John Fina. That's what happens when Dad goes away and he lets the kids play with the computer equipment. Joe will not be with us today. He is out actually the rest of the week, but we'll still bring you all great content as we start rolling into first week of the season, as we have a home opener against the Arizona Cardinals at Highmark Stadium. That is in 2 weeks, folks. But we're going to talk a little bit about the preseason game this weekend, but we're going to really get into potential cuts. But as we always say, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, hit our website up, overreactionbuffalo.com. If you're on Facebook Live, if you're on Twitter, hop over to YouTube, get in the comments like all of our great listeners do. And they're lined up tonight already. Scott Blakely, Richard Rush, Karen, David Reed, Tracy, everybody is lined up and ready to go because we got a little bit to talk about, John.
Oh, it's football season, baby. It's getting hot.
Yes,
Jerry,
it is.
I know you are like soaking in college football. I'm a college football junkie. Like I got every TV on in the house, different games. I'm rewinding, checking it out. Such a great feeling. The weather's cooling off a little bit. I mean, there is nothing better than the game of football. I'm telling you, it just gets me amped up.
Had an upset right out of the gates. Florida State gets beat by Georgia Tech. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane have their home opener on Thursday night. I will be there, of course, to watch my son got the Dukies.
That's right. And Duke hosts Elon on Friday night. So Thursday, Tulsa, Friday, Duke. Good luck to Owen.
The Elon Musks. You guys are playing the Elon Musks?
We are playing the Elon Musk. Thank God. I love that guy.
All right, guys, let's get into the game this weekend. Obviously, we played at home against Carolina. Didn't play any starters. Pretty nondescript game, but there are some things that you can take away from the game. Obviously, John, your thoughts watching the game, maybe some things that you saw that you liked?
Well, I'll tell you what I did like. I liked the competition. The guys remaining on the field beyond the starters were amped up. I mean, it was truly a situation that was real. These guys fighting for roster spots. There's a number of them still open. The offensive line, I got to tell you, I mean, you and I talk about it, and we're like, this guy, no, that guy, this guy. So, as much as we're talking about it, they're talking about it at One Bills Drive. And I just love the energy the Bills put out there. They didn't win the game, but, everybody's still 0-0 right now. And it's just super exciting to see guys out there trying to get a job, right? Fighting for a job.
The thing that I did like about this game, and one thing I really like right now, what's going on in Buffalo, I think our young guys, especially our drafted guys, are playing at a high level. I think Solomon's going to be a really solid player on this roster, and is only going to get better over time as he learns to use his athleticism and his size. And when you say use your size, you're usually thinking a big guy, right? Well, Solomon really gives you some matchup issues with big, tall tackles when you're 6'2" and you're strong and you have the speed and agility he has. I think that he's going to be a really good player. I'm big time all in on Grable. I think that he's been playing really, really well at that tackle spot. He just has to develop physically. And then Van Pran Granger, I think that the guy he's a brawler. I mean, he's a small area brawler. I mean, if he's got guys on him, he moves the first level. He needs to get better on the second level and start getting more fluid and used to the athleticism at linebacker. I know he's coming from the SEC. I know he's played against the premier players in the country, so they tell us. But I just think that he shows a lot of promise as well. So those young guys I really, really like. But there are some things that we did that I didn't really care for. I think we missed an easy touchdown. I don't know if Shaver should have caught that ball. I thought he should have caught it. The throw might have not been great. There was that play. I thought that the kickoff return, we had some miscues in the special teams this game. The kickoff return was the product of missed tackles more than it was scheme or schematics. And then also, I don't think our secondary had really the greatest of games. But I do believe this. I really think that the Bills purposely kept it vanilla as all get out this preseason, especially offensively. They didn't show much at all, John.
Yeah, I want to extend that secondary topic that you just brought up, because I was paying very close attention. We were playing super soft. It was incredibly non-dynamic beyond, great athletes out there. So that to me just says, I think they feel like they know who they're keeping.
Right.
They didn't want to try anything, risk any injury to some young players and have to deal with, all the machinations of that, releases, injury settlements, what have you. But it was pretty nondescript. That's the only area that I thought was, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more press, a little tighter coverage, a little bit more of a plan. But I get it. It's preseason. So, I understand that. And then with respect to the new kickoff, honestly, Jerry, I didn't expect it to be this challenging. I thought they'd have this pretty well nailed by now. And it looks like they're reworking the formula all day long and twice on Sunday.
Well, I think
also, they ain't got it riddled out yet.
No, I think also too, I think a lot of guys, they're holding that back as well. I think that nobody really understands, and I think everybody has ideals and they have different ideas and some new things they want to do, but nobody wants to show anything because you know how it is, John. And if you don't understand how film breakdown goes, everybody gets the team they're playing 3 games back. Okay. So, if you say and John and I used to kid about this because we were tight ends on the PAT field goal team. You give up one little inch of pressure, in the next 3 weeks, you're going to have 14 guys. And I know there's only 11 on the field, but there'll be 14 trying to rush you to get pressure on the kicker, because everybody sees it until it washes out and you get through those 3 games. So everybody's going to see everybody's stuff. I'm sure there's going to be much more ingenuity and theory and concept or whatever that goes with the kickoff return. But I will say this, John, I don't know about you. I mean, it's to the point now where you don't even really notice it. I mean, I know it's so much different, but I don't even really notice it.
Well, I think we're going to notice it. And I think that was the point. I think the kickoff became so boring and so routine that, it never really changed field position. And now I think it's come back to the point where it's actually an impactful play in the kicking game. So, I fantasize that we'll return everyone to the 45 and hold everybody else, to the 22. But the opportunity to actually advance the ball, I think, really exists now beyond where it did before, which I think is good for the game. But hey, let's table the kicking game right now.
Yeah.
And let's go back to, let's talk about the cuts that were made, Jerry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to say them? You read them off.
All right. So released today, quarterback Anthony Brown, wide receiver Demir Bird, offensive lineman Kevin Jarvis, defensive end Rondale Bothroyd. If I said that right. Linebacker Shane Simon, linebacker Deion Jones, cornerback Kyron Brown, injured reserve safety Terrell Burgess, and safety D Delaney. I think the only, I don't want to say surprise, but the only kind of, wow, I didn't expect that so soon, was linebacker Deion Jones.
Right. And I've got a little bit of a theory on that. And I think
go.
I talked a little bit about it. I think that the Bills are going to be highly active on the waiver wire as the other teams start to release down to 53. It's not like it used to be. This is not a trickle down cut. So it's not like we do 20 this week, 10 the next week, they've got to get to 53 at the same time. Everybody does. There's going to be an immense amount of players on the waiver wire and a lot of talented players on the waiver wire. When you start looking at the Bills, I think they do have to, or they're looking to possibly pick up some players at various spots. I think linebacker is one of those. I know everybody right now sees that cut and they're like, Buffalo Joe's in, Andreessen made the roster. Folks, as a man of experience, I went down to the 11th hour in the last minute and got cut. So don't think that they can't cut you whenever they want to. I'm not saying that Joe doesn't make the roster. I'm just saying it's still a long way to go. But what I do think is this. When you look at Deion Jones playing on veteran money is a lot more than what Joe Andreessen's making, and even a draft pick like Ulofoshio. So if you took Ulofoshio and Andreessen's base salaries on this cap, they're probably less than Deion Jones. So you get 2 players for 1. If there's really not that much separation, you move the vet, you keep the young guys because of the cap considerations, and then you can go out shop a little bit. So I think that you got to look at that. Cuts aren't, when you have a really, really tight cap situation like the Bills have, it's not just about talent. It's also going to be about cap numbers. What can I do to keep my number down so I can go out and buy better groceries?
Right.
I think that's what you got to look at.
And with releasing Stephon Diggs, right, we're kind of in this kind of cap hell situation. And if guys like Andreessen and Ulofoshio really flash, you look at these guys and think, can we plug them in and play them in a disaster or catastrophe situation? And if we can do that, and if they don't have to play, we get to continue to develop them. But the impact it has on the cap is extreme for next year. I mean, every dollar counts, right? Now, we're not talking about dollars here. We're talking about $250,000, $500,000, $1 million every time you turn around. But that all stacks up, right?
Again, if you jumped in late, if you're over on Facebook Live, you're on Twitter watching, hop over to YouTube, get in the comments. If you have some questions about players in this cap, or I'm sorry, not cap number, but roster, if you got any questions or ideas or theories or comments, put them up on the board. If they're good, we'll read them. But real quick, John, let's start on the offensive side. Obviously, quarterback, really not much going on there. I guess the biggest thing with it is we released the one quarterback today. We released Anthony Brown. Do you go ahead and injury settlement Trubisky and keep DiNucci, or do you keep Trubisky hoping he comes back and use DiNucci as that emergency quarterback number 3? Can Trubisky get well enough in the next 2 weeks to be an emergency guy if we need him? I guess that's the only question there.
Or, as we talked about earlier, are you waiting on the waiver wire? There's other quarterbacks out there. Does Trubisky go away? DiNucci stays on the practice squad. I think that will be up to the minute, right? Look, I scratched my head a little bit at Anthony Brown coming in, other than the fact that the only reason they brought him in at what it would seem now is they didn't want DiNucci to play the entire last preseason game. So thanks for your services. Anthony Brown got some reps. I hope that kid ends up somewhere. I'm up in the air on this, Jerry. Ben DiNucci played pretty well, right? It's really hard to peer into the minds of Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott. But my instinct tells me that they'll keep Mitch Trubisky if someone comes up on the waiver wire somewhere down the line early in the season, he goes.
Right.
Or I don't know that DiNucci is ready to go.
Or you could put Trubisky as the third emergency guy if you pick somebody up off of a waiver and allow him to get back from injury. So obviously that's really the only question mark at quarterback. Running back, I think, you keep 3 Cook, Davis, and Johnson. You've got Gilliam as your fullback special teams guy. But I will say this, young Frank Gore Jr. showed a ton this weekend, was another one of the bright spots in that game against Carolina. I'd have to think if he doesn't get picked up on waivers, he's one of the guys on that practice squad, John.
Jerry, this is a strange dynamic for me, right? I mean, Reggie Gilliam plays fullback, and we run 2 snaps with a fullback per game, possibly, right? Why keep Reggie Gilliam, and I like the kid. And I'm thinking to myself, remind me, Jerry, who took who played running back in the end there when Frank Gore came out? Was that KJ Hamler?
Yeah.
All right. So bear with me here. Frank Gore Jr. looked really good. And I know you can argue it's the second team players, the third team players, guys are going to get cut or all over the field. But what he did physically matters despite the defenders or the offensive line that was in front of him. The skill set that he laid out there was super impressive. And you could say, oh, well, he's already a Ray Davis. All right. Well, what if we keep an extra tight end that's in the place of Reggie Gilliam? And then we keep Frank Gore. We keep Frank Gore Jr. And then this has to be kind of blended in with, I don't think you keep 10 offensive linemen. We got to let one offensive lineman go. So you're robbing an offensive line position for a tight end to keep a running back and let a fullback go.
Right. Well, and we'll get in that. And I think because we're going to go to this real quick, and I want you to hold that thought because I've always felt you can train Quentin Morris to do what Reggie Gilliam does, and then that gives you a chance to keep some of the guys elsewhere. Scott Blake with a super chat. Everybody's been asking about it in the comments. I was holding it till the end to be suspenseful. John and I will talk about it, but he says, Bass, seriously, we can't move on this year. Do we just go for it on fourth down? He seriously has mental issues with his game. Your opinion. John, would you like that first? You'd love to talk about topics like this.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Okay, he's been reliable. Maybe he's got to see the Maharishi. Maybe, maybe he's got to I don't know.
I've got the fix, by the way.
Take some edibles. No, all I could say is this. We don't have another kicker in camp right now. He's got too much of a cap hit. We can't let him go for somebody else who's the same or less effective.
Right. I have the fix for Bass.
Oh, I want to hear it.
He's out of balance.
Okay.
He either goes with two eye blacks or takes the single eye black off, and that will bounce him back up to where he doesn't have issues pushing the football. But honestly, all kidding aside, John, you're 100% correct. He's a $7 million cap hit if you get rid of him this year. Folks, all I will say is this. The Philadelphia Phillies had Trey Turner at shortstop, was in the worst hitting slump of his career, okay? Trey Turner comes up to bat one game, and the fans, instead of going Philly, decided to give him a standing ovation. They gave him a standing ovation, and they supported him to the nth degree. He went on like a 20-some game hitting streak, batted over 300 for the season, and has been amazing since. So why don't we do this? Instead of beating the dead horse, the $7 million dead horse that would cost us if you get rid of him, maybe the first time he goes out to kick a field goal, all 70-some thousand people stand up and give him a rousing standing ovation to show your support.
Jerry, I think what you said is from the ashes rises the phoenix, right? And look, everybody, tonight take a kneel down before your bed and say a little prayer or throw something out into the cosmos. I think he's going to be just fine.
Scott, thank you for the super chat. But we talked a little about the tight ends, and we talked about Gilliam. Like I said, I always thought Quentin Morris could possibly be trained to do Gilliam's job. If you do that, then does that allow you to keep Zach Davidson or another offensive lineman, which is the group we'll move to next, John? Do they keep 10? Do they keep 9? Do they keep 8? Your idea or your theories on this?
Man, I got to tell you, I wish I was playing in the days when they kept 10. I might have even stuck around for a little while. I would be shocked and amazed if they kept 10 offensive linemen. I'd be shocked and amazed if they kept 9, Jerry. But look, you got the starting 5. I think for me, you've got to look at who's the most versatile in the final 5. And I think you just go with Alec Anderson, Tylen Grable, and Van Pan Granger. That gets you to 8. Right. And then if you are going to keep 9, to me, it's a toss-up between Vandermark and Will Clapp. Right. I lean toward Will Clapp and letting Vandermark go, but That's what we got. Hey, Ryan Tongan.
Yes. Thank
My
you.
man.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ryan, very much. I'm going to leave that up there for a while because it just says go Bills, and we're about the Bills. And I agree, go Bills. But, Ryan, thank you for your generosity and your support. Scott, as always, thank you for your support. And thank you, everybody, for your support, whether you're listening now, you watch on YouTube later, if you listen on the podcast. Thank you so much. We enjoy doing this. It's really important for us to bring you the best content we can bring you. But talking about that offensive line situation, John, I really believe that, again, this is a group I'm excited about because we've got 2 draft picks that are playing pretty damn good for rookies. I think Van Pran Granger's a brawler. I love his style. Again, I harp on it all the time.
Two-position player.
Two-position player. There's an art to playing on the second level. John was really good as a second-level player. I had to get better as I went along. Van Pran Granger's going to have to get better as he went along. But if you put a guy on him, he's going to snatch him up and move him. I really like him a lot. And I'm telling you, Tylen Grable's been the surprise of camp for me at that position. Other than he needs to get bigger and stronger, every week he goes out, he battles. One thing he does that I know John Fina loves, he is technique sound.
Well, his frame is great, right? I mean, he's got a frame. You can stack some serious muscle on that guy. Right. He looks really good.
Right.
Jerry, I want to address that second level compliment you gave me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And to me, a guy like VPG has already shown he's working at the first level. The only difference between the first level and the second level from college to the pros is really the quality of the linebackers. So you've got to be, heightened aware on your combination blocks when you're carrying a guy up to the next level. You are initially surprised at how quickly they fill. How quickly they fill and flow in the league is shockingly different from the collegiate level.
Right.
And I think he's got that skill set. I think he's got the mindset.
Right. You've got to understand, too, flow, like you said, angles and those types of things. And you can actually use your down block to create momentum to get you to that second level as well. That was the one thing that once I learned that really helped me. But real quick to finish out the O-line, I think the battle right now is do you keep – I don't think they're going to keep 10. I think they'll keep 9. And is Will Clapp the guy that goes, or is it Vandermark that goes?
It might be both.
Right, it might be both. Has Grable done enough to supplant Vandermark? I know Grable athletically is much better, I think, than Vandermark already as a rookie. So that's where we're going to have to look at. But I think the Lyle Collins experiment is over with. And we also saw some guys get released already today at that position. Moving on to the defensive end. My favorite player of camp, the biggest surprise of camp for me, is Javon Solomon. I think he is solidly on that roster. He plays really good special teams. I think he's going to be a player. I love his motor, and he does have a lot of really good technique already, and he'll get better watching guys like Von Miller and the likes. But, of course, the guy that's on, you keep 5 of them. Do you keep 5? Do you keep 4? You probably keep 5. You got Russo, A.J. Epinesa, Von Miller, Dwayne Smoot, and then, to me, Solomon makes that 5, and you got once again, just on the cusp of making it and probably doesn't is Kingsley Jonathan. And then the other guy that I thought really could have helped us and still is a good football player, but was hurt all preseason is Casey Toohill.
Jerry, I love your take. And just sticking with Javon Solomon right here, this is what he reminds me of. He is the blend of Von Miller and Ed Oliver.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. Yeah.
Right? He's got more power than Von. Right? He's got more quicks than Ed. And if he has just half the moves of Vaughn, right, and half the power of Ed Oliver, I think he becomes a real threat. And I'll tell you, people love to hear our stories, and then we'll get to Scott again. Generous Scott, thank you. People ask you, and you hear this all the time, who's the hardest guy you ever played against, right? And what I always say is that the 2 hardest players that I ever played against were myself and then every other guy that lined up across from me, because the mental aspect of the game, the positive self-talk, the blown up ego that you had to have, regardless of whether you're playing well or not, you had to think you were a world beater. and then everybody else, because there's no weeks off.
Right.
But they say, no, really, come on, who'd you play? And Hugh Douglas from the Jets.
Right.
Hugh Douglas reminds me very much of Javon Solomon.
Yes.
Not over 6'2", super fast, very powerful from the hips to thighs.
That's the deal.
That's the guy, right?
Right.
And I'm not a giant. I'm just under 6'5" when I played, but you had to be ready for that guy to come in right about the level of your xiphoid, right the middle of your chest.
Yep.
And with the power that he had, it's a different kind of rush you had to take on. If you played it with length, then he was quick and agile enough to give a swat and go around, come underneath. I think this guy's going to be quality.
All great pass rushers have one really good rush, and that is a bull rush. Reggie had it. Bruce could do it. Hugh Douglas could do it, and Solomon's showing he can do it as well. I think all great pass rushers are built off of a good bull rush. But real quick, Scott Blakely, again, thank you for your generosity with the super chat. I know we can't get rid of him other than standing ovation if he can't balance his eye shadows. Should McDermott just punt or go for it on 4th down? Scott, I love you, dog, but I'm just telling you, it's like the great Ric Flair used to say, you can you can hate it or you can like it, but you better learn to love it, because that's what you're going to get.
I think he's onto something. I think Scott's onto something. They go to the freaking McKinley Mall, or what's the mall off the 90, the Gonorrhea Mall, and they grab one of the gals from the Clinique counter.
Right. Oh,
God. Bring her in. Right, hit that eyeshadow up properly, put some lashes on there. I think anything, and it's really at that point now. And look, guys, everybody thinks, kickers are staying. You got to get out of their head, right? They got to. It's right. Every position, position.
Every one of us. This. Yes,
every one of us.
But anyway, like I said, you can like it or not like it, but you better learn to love it. Defensive tackles: Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter, Austin Johnson. Do they keep 4 if they do? Or is it not Austin Johnson? Do they keep Deshaun Williams? I know Deshaun Williams played quite a bit this week. You can kind of maybe foresee some things as who really got a lot of reps. But I will say this: if you keep 4 and you keep Johnson over Williams or Williams over Johnson, one guy that I thought really did well this preseason and is possibly a guy to go back on the practice squad is Eli Ankou. I thought he played very, very well, really, really active. I think Gable Stevenson showed some flashes. He's just so small. I mean, he's 6'1". It's going to be hard for him. They might put him on practice squad as well just because he's a raw project. But I think that position group is pretty cut and dry, except for maybe Johnson and Williams.
It's a toss-up for me, Jerry. I think you have to keep 4, and that's what I'm sticking with. Who it's going to be, I'm not going to say. But Ed has been reliable, but occasionally a couple of nicks here and there, and that's the same with Daquan Jones, right? So I don't think you can truly go with 3 unless you have a plan to run a 3-3-4 defense, right? Or a 3-2-5. And did I do the math right?
Really what they're going to run
3-3-5
of Johnson.
Right, 3-3-5 or 3-2-6. Yeah, I just don't see it. I think you got to keep 4.
With Terry Johnson playing the nickel corner, they're going to play their 4-2-5 like they've been playing, and that's where Javon Solomon.
Right, but my point is, if you don't keep 4 D tackles,
yes,
right,
exactly. Yeah.
And then you go injury, you have an injury problem, then you're running a 3-man front, and then you've got to have 3 linebackers, right? So then you're 3-3-5 rather than 4-2-5.
So linebacker is the big question, of course. So if you keep, everybody wants to know what's going to happen to Joe Andreessen. I think Joe Andreessen right now is on the roster. If the Bills decide to go out shopping for free agent linebackers, which might be the case seeing that Deion Jones was released today, does that put Andreessen in peril or possibly getting released and them trying to bring him back on the practice squad? You look at Terrell Bernard, you look at Dorian Williams, okay, Spector probably makes it. Ulofoshio as a draft pick probably makes it. He's been playing a lot of teams and showed out late and did pretty well in that Carolina game. I think right now you're looking at, can the Bills, do they release then Nicholas Morrow and go get a vet and keep Andreessen. But obviously Shane Simon was released today, and then also Deion Jones at that position. So there is some flux going on. I just really feel you need to watch those waiver wires as cuts start coming in. This is an area that the Bills might go out and try to get somebody.
I 100% agree, right? They let Deion Jones go, and some people might say, oh, they did it because of what Andreessen did. That may be the case. But if they pull somebody on the waiver wire, I think what the Bills in the back of their head strategy might be thinking is the league's aware of what Joe Andreessen did in the preseason, but
Right.
they're also cautiously aware of somebody that flashes. And maybe he's playing out of his head because he's at home and he's not a real guy. The Bills might be trying to play that, pick up another guy, quietly get him onto the practice squad. Maybe he stays there, develops a little bit more. But again, I think he's on the roster now with that Deion Jones cut, unless somebody of consequence shows up on the waiver wire.
Jessica says Dwight Freeney was only 6'1". Dwight Freeney played football his entire life and is in the Hall of Fame. Gable Stevenson was a wrestler that won a national championship, had a small stint in the WWE before coming to the Buffalo Bills. One time, I think, in the history of football, Jessica, and I agree with you. I'm not a big size guy. I don't put guys down just because of size, but in his case, it's a little bit glaring. And he also plays inside. He doesn't play outside like Freeney did. So there's a difference there as well. There was one guy that was a NCAA collegiate national champion wrestler, and he had a very long, illustrious career in the NFL. John, do you know who that guy is?
Jerry Ostrowski?
No, it would not be him, although that would be dope. I'd love to be a national champion wrestler. That would be none other than Carlton Hasselrig, the offensive guard from the Pittsburgh Steelers that wrestled at Pittsburgh, like Johnstown or something like that, was a Division I AA national champion. They brought him over, and he was right before we got there, part of that 80s Super Bowl teams and all of that. So, yes, it has happened. I would not be shocked if Stevenson was on the practice squad. I could see that happening because he did show quite a bit of promise. Moving on to cornerbacks as we get close to our allotted time for today's Overreaction post-game show. In 2 weeks, it'll be the real thing. We'll be on talking about the
can't
Arizona
wait, Jerry.
Cardinals-Bills game. Hey, we woke Joe up from his slumber. Just sent a text. But anyway, we talk about, as I digress, shiny thing. We talk about the cornerbacks. I don't think there's any real surprises there. You got Benford Douglas, Taron Johnson, the best nickel corner in the game, in my opinion. Elam, great job this camp. You showed up. You did what you needed to do. You solidified yourself as that third corner. Then you got Daquan Hardy, who also, masquerades as a returner. And then Jamarcus Ingram, I think, is your other guy. But then you have your cuts. You're probably looking at guys like Kenny Lovely, Kyron Brown, to Corey Couch. I think Couch might be a guy that comes back on the practice squad. A lot of talent in that room. Really good job evaluating, bringing guys in that are very good players that can help. And some of these guys, if they do get released, might show up on other rosters.
Jerry, there's just not a lot of surprises here. I'm just really thankful, and I root for the guy, Kaiir Elam, and I'm so glad that he had a great camp, and I hope that translates into a fantastic season, because we need him, right? We just need him. And he's a first-round pick, and, I hate when people hang that moniker of bust on a guy. I don't wish that on anyone. It's an incredibly hard league to be successful in. That's why guys, in the 12th round made it, and some guys in the first round didn't. It's just translational. You never know. No surprises here. I rooted for Kenny H. Lovely just because I like the name. So I don't even want to touch the cornerback room. I feel like if I think about it too much, I'm going to put bad mojo out there. But I think you're right. I think Benford, Douglas, Johnson, Elam, Hardy, and Ingram. mostly Hardy and Ingram, right, because of returning skills.
And folks that are jumping in the comments talking about wrestlers that were professional wrestlers playing in the NFL. I'm talking about folk style, actual collegiate wrestling. I think the only one that probably had a little bit of time in the NFL that I can remember too is Dr. Death Steve Williams from Oklahoma. I think he had a little stint in the league as well. But yes, there are pro wrestlers. I'm talking actual collegiate national champions.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll move to the safety room with that. Cole Bishop coming back from his injury. Obviously, they're trying to get him ready to play. Tyler Rapps had a great camp. Has been a hell of a leader in that defensive secondary. The guy, he has stepped up. He's done a wonderful job of replacing Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer in that leadership role. Cam Lewis is still back there, a guy that can go to nickel corner as well. Mike Edwards is showing up. He's starting to get healthy. Like we said, he's got a couple of Super Bowls, has played this game for a long time. Training camp, not quite as important for him as, say, a guy like Cole Bishop. And then DeMar Hamlin makes this roster again, which is cool. Cut-wise, they already cut Burgess, cut D. Delaney, and then I think you got Kareem Jackson and Kendall Williamson on the outside looking in as well. So, again, nothing really stands out in the safety room unless somebody cuts somebody, and that's another area that they feel they need to go out and shop a little bit to add some veteran depth or some young guy talent into that room.
Right. I agree with you, Jerry. I think that this room in particular, though, you want heavy in the practice squad if you can. Right. We've had some nicks, right? So we want to make sure that we have some depth and we can move a guy in, get him ready to play, get the pressure on him. And overall, this has really been an exciting time to be a Buffalo Bills fan with all the new faces and the changes, as you have said many times, soft rebuild. I think for what many Bills fans were concerned about has been somewhat tempered with what we've seen in performance from unknown names and faces. And obviously, it's going to take a tremendous output from this wide receiver core with what we have as a fantastic quarterback, great run balance, and
right.
our tight ends are incredible weapons when Dawson Knox is healthy and Dalton Kincaid's on the field. I think with respect to the defense, we just need them to perform, I think, as well as last year, minus the injuries, and I think we have a chance to go deep.
Yep, and the thing it's real exciting to me is the fact that there's a ton of young talent on this roster. We're talking about guys that are fringe guys that are actually rookies, guys that have been drafted or brought in, and so the evaluation has been spot on. In a team that needs to be infused with young talent, there seems to be those types of players. They've hit pretty well in the draft, so that's another thing that gets me excited as well. We get through training camp, hopefully our stint with the injury bug has been done already. And as we get healthier as we move into the season, we'll now get the game plan, and we haven't seen much of anything from the staff. And I think that's pretty much on purpose. But as we get done with this show today, again, thanks as always for watching. Tuesday night on the beat, I'll be on with Mike Catalana, and we'll have him on. And then Thursday will be the Big O show. We'll get into something. I haven't decided what we're going to talk about yet. Friday, if these walls could talk, and then Overreaction on Sunday night. Oh, and don't forget Hump Day on Wednesday night. I almost forgot about that. That would be like the worst thing in the world to forget the Hump Day.
Jay Spence the King, Joe Miller.
Right. So actually, Jay Spence the King's finding a replacement for Joe since he's out all week. But John, I appreciate you as always, man. Thanks for taking the time with us. It's always good to be on the show with you. We can reminisce. We can talk about the Bills, talk about ball. But folks, thanks as always. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Tell your friends. Go to the website, overreactionbuffalo.com. I'm the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. He is John Fina for the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. As always, much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.